You are watching 9 to 5, a show about people who are passionate about their job. In this episode, you will meet sculptor Cliff Leonard. 9 to 5 begins right now.
My name is Cliff Leonard. I'm a sculptor here in Jacksonville. Prior to becoming a sculptor, I had worked various jobs, anything from a school psychologist to a police officer to a private investigator. I kind of took up sculpturing, what you might call later in life. I was roughly 50 when I started. My military background was I volunteered for the Marine Corps for 2 years. Prior to that, I was in a military high school and then a military college. I dropped out of military college after a year and a half and joined the Marine Corps for 2 years. Basically at the height of the Vietnam buildup. I came from a very small rural town that really didn't have art. You had music or sports, and that was about it. When I became interested in art, I picked sculpture, or it almost seemed like it picked me, and it does take a lot of attention and a lot of focus, and it's very difficult for me. I struggle at all the work I do. As an artist, your basic thing to do, especially as a sculptor, is learning to see. We all know what someone looks like, but if you try to make that individual, it's just a total new world. First thing I ever attempted to sculpt was a horse, a rocking horse, and I knew what a horse looked like, but when you actually start sculpting and working with one, you really have no idea close-up features of what makes a horse a horse. Several years ago, I joined a small group called Semper Fidelis Society of Jacksonville. It's a group of Marines, mostly older Marines. The group had already established a memorial for Marines and Corpsmen up at Evergreen Cemetery on the north side of Jacksonville. And they were thinking of honoring one of the young Marines killed in Iraq. And I mentioned to them that I was a sculptor and that I would like to sculpt a bust to be put out there. For whatever reason, it never really worked out for me to actually do that, but in the process, we had made contact with this Marine's grandparents and got some photographs and stuff of Nate Clemens, and I had already made my commitment to making the bust, and I decided that I would go ahead and make it, even though it wouldn't be put out at the memorial or whatever. I would just present it to the family, and presented it to Nate Clemens' grandparents. It really had an effect on me, almost as much effect on me as it seemed like to have had on the family. Having been in Vietnam and been around other young guys, kids at the time that were killed, I just wanted to be able to honor some of these fellows. I can look back now at some of the guys that were killed that were my age, and they're just disappeared. Other than their family, nobody even knows about them. And I thought this way, maybe they could, for lack of a better word, live on. So I decided to sculpt the Marines and or the Corpsmen that had been killed in this immediate Jacksonville area. Once I actually get the photographs from the family, I'll often start that day, just basically building up the piece. The entire process usually takes me a good 2 months, but I will probably spend 50 or 60 or 70 hours on it, if not more, over that period of time. Some of that time is literally just time the pieces in the process of drying, of setting up, getting hard enough to be able to be fired. The busts that I've been making so far and donating it to the families have been all in water-based clay. It has to be fired. Once the piece has been fired, I finish it using various types of acrylic paint, starting off with just a brown base color and then going into various types of metallic, bronze, copper, sometimes a little bit of silver thrown in, just to have it look as much like a piece of actual bronze as possible. Once the piece is dried, all the paints have dried, I will take various types of colors of shoe polish to also bring out some of that metallic that's in the paint, and polish that by using the wax that's inside the shoe polish. And then you just buff it down and it winds up looking basically just like bronze. I know a piece is finished when I look at it and I can see the eyes, and I think I can see him looking back at me. And just as important is for my wife to be able to look at the piece with a different set of eyes and to be able to say, yes, I think you've got it. When I first started sculpting these young men, it was very difficult. Emotionally, making the thing is difficult, and then presenting it to the family is by far the most difficult. The last piece was very difficult. It was a spouse. She came by about 2 weeks ago. And she was very upset. I was upset. My wife was upset. And her daughter, 15-year-old daughter, was probably the calmest of us all. I had inscribed some of the things on the back. I'd written her and asked her to tell me some of the things about John. And she wrote me several small little paragraphs. And I took some of those and wrote it on the back of the piece. And when I turned the piece around, she became even more upset. Not from anything I'd written, but she just quietly crying said, I didn't think I'd ever see the back of his head again. And you know, what do you say? What can you say to someone? One of the pieces was donated to Terry Parker High. You know, and if I see myself as a high school student walking past a bust of someone who was in the service, I don't know what I would think. I hope I would have thought that, you know, there's a hell of a guy there. He volunteered for the military and served in the military to protect this country. And his life was taken doing just what he wanted to do, protecting this country. You know, and I would like to be idealistic enough to think that high school students walking by would think that. But maybe only an adult can think that. I'm not sure. And that's what I'd like to think.